It's my pleasure and honor to invite Dr. Swaroop Sampat Rawal on the stage for her paper presentation. Dr. Swaroop ji is a distinguished educator, an actor, and a life skills trainer. She has 2 PhDs, 2 doctoral awards, a PhD in education, and a Doctor of Letters from the University of Worcester, United Kingdom. As an educationist, her contribution is multifaceted. She is part of the National Mentor Framework. She is contributing significantly to the NCF program. And she is part of the, she is a non-governmental member of the Central Advisory Board of Education, India. And she's been writing and speaking on a variety of aspects of education, including integration of Indian knowledge systems into the mainstream curricula. In particular, she has a special interest in art integration, and her paper now is also about the legacy of artist Jamini Roy. Swaroop ji is also a distinguished actress and has contributed significantly in the 80s and 90s. Many of us have watched her performances in many television serials, which were a talk of the town and a talk of every household, I must say. There is no household that does not recognize Dr. Swaroop Sampat Rawal. It's my pleasure and honor to invite her onto the dais.
Yes, I will tell you, yeah. Namaste, Jai Shri Krishna, as we say in Gujarat. I love saying it. Nagaraj ji, Shiv Kumar, Dimple, thank you very much for having me here. I am so thrilled to be presenting over here. It's because I love talking about things that I'm interested in, and I want to share it with everybody. Today I'm going to take you to a different world from what we have been hearing since morning, but I still think it's a very, very relevant one too. So can we have the first slide? Yeah. The Woman in White. What a stunning painting. When I look at it, I still get goosebumps. The first time I was searching for a painting to do some art appropriation. That is, when an artist looks at a painting and redoes it, recolors it, or does something different to it, yet retains the quality of the main artist. And I thought this was a very interesting way to introduce my grade 5 students. I'm taking you all the way down. We were with judges and law and history, and now I'm taking you down to the 5th standard. And I wanted some painter. And I searched and I wanted an Indian painter. And I came across this painting and I said, this is beautiful. And that's how I met Jamini Roy. And the first time I met him, I just fell in love with him and his work. And it was so beautiful. And I wondered why I did not learn about it in school or even in art school. Imagine, I learned painting, applied arts, but all the same, I should have been introduced to this great painter. And I started seeing him and studying about him. And so I realized that he was a rebel painter. And then when I had this topic of yours, and I said, oh my God, he fits in so well. Let me study more and let me do a research on him. So this paper is about him and a little about how I researched him. I'm going to take you through a very different qualitative way of researching. And it's called art-based research. So first I'm going to set the situation for you, and then I'm going to take you to Jamini Roy. But to take you there, first you need to understand that art-based research is a very, very important research. We kind of neglect fine arts and arts as a part of history, as a part of culture, as a part of what we are part of our history, and our deep roots to our connection. So can I have the next slide? They provide an insight into emotions, cultural dynamics, and societal norms. This is something we never think of when we talk of art. We only talk of, customs, then we talk of law, we talk of governance. We forget that this is a very important part of societal norms, and it's a very, very important part of our emotions. Can I have the next slide? So this is my research methodology, art-based research, art-based historical research, because art-based research can be done in different ways, and I've done an art-based historical research. The idea that art can be used to understand human actions is so interesting. We don't think of that, and that's what I wanted to do. And it was a lot about me too, I wanted to understand it, to be able to present it to you all, and then take it forward to the education world, to take it to schools and take it to my students. So it doesn't end here. The next slide. See, we must understand that art-based research is not about the painting. It's not about a dance, it's not about a theater action, it's not about that. But it's about using art as an integrated way to understand something. And so I've used this art-based research to understand Jamini Roy's studies in the colonial time. So it's not just about Jamini Roy's painting, but it's about his actions, about the way he changed, the way he brought about change, and you will see that it's so dynamic. The next one. Oh, 1 minute. I just love that line, and that's why I kept it for you. Art-based research is like it's like a hyphen between art and social science research. So it kind of connects, and makes social science research so much more interesting, so much more in-depth, so much more emotional, so much more real. The next line. So then, how do you do it? And what are the kind of questions you ask? So now I come to my paper and I tell you the questions I asked were, I'd like the next slide. Subject matter, the next slide. Subject matter. Mythological figures, religious scenes, everyday life, rural landscapes. The questions I asked were, what are the stories that are being told? And what cultural value do they represent? The next slide. That's again the subject matter. This is from the normal life in the Santhal tribe in Jharkhand. Yeah, next. The style. Bold lines, flat compositions, use of natural pigment, folk art influence. This is all about it. How do these stylistic choices depart from Western academics? I'm going to talk about Western academics in just a little bit. And how do they connect to our Indian artistic tradition? Next. The material used. And, what type of indigenous material was used? How did he depart from the colonial material and reclaim the local material? I'm going to talk about that too. Then, there was a lot of contemporary reviews and writings which I looked. I could not obviously meet Jamini Roy because he is no more. I would have if he was there. His exhibition catalogues, and in that catalogues I found one very interesting thing which if I remember, I will bring it back because I had that conversation with Nagarajji yesterday. Then the visual material from Bengal, folk art of Bengal, the Santhal and the Kalighat style. And photography and films. And when I saw a film of Jamini Roy, it really made me feel so great to be able to see this painter. This is such an incredible way of going back into it. Like just imagine when, Meenakshi ji was talking about all the laws and the, people protesting. Imagine if we had a film of that, how real it would have been for me. So you can imagine how real this research became for me when I saw Jamini Roy himself. The analysis of all this were done through visual analysis of the paintings, the contextual analysis, like setting the paintings in the historical context, and, especially in colonial times, and how, what I learned about that colonial period and what Western and especially Eurocentric art was doing to us and academics was doing to us. Comparative analysis were two. Comparative analysis were Indian with Western and Indian with other Indian painters. And you will see something very interesting when I come to my story. Cultural interpretation, the values that his painting said, and how did this contribute to future paintings which were tribal. Can I have the next slide? The imposition of Western knowledge. I didn't think about this because I had a similar, education system, even though I was born in free India. This was not. But yet, the British style, and especially the Euro-Western style of painting, they encroach so heavily into our painting style that first thing is that they belittled us. And they just negated all our style of painting. And you've been hearing that since morning about how we were looked down on. And, tribal art is nothing, it's flat, it's this, it's that, it's, unwashed people and, all these things. So all our artists, all the great painters or the the students who would become the future greats, and I will name them all: Jamini Roy, Tayyab Hussain, Tayyab Mehta Hussain, Nandlal Bose, I can just go on name, Amrita Sergil. All of them went through this education. And you can imagine what it must have done to them, that they were, the Western style was imposed on them. I thought I'd just have a look. I have a slide on it, I think. Can I have the next slide? Okay, so first I'll show you this painting. This is a painting done by Jamini Roy. The Impressionist style. Can you believe this? But, he was called the Matisse of India. So, you copied their style and you suddenly became the great painter. You just had to take out your individuality, your Indianness, your Bharatiyaness, your Indicness. But if you did Euro-style paintings, you became this. He was called the Matisse of India. The next one. And he started doing this. This is a copy of a Van Gogh painting, and that's why it's called Van Gogh. It is not about Van Gogh, so in case you're wondering. And when I saw it, I was shocked. There is this great, talented young boy doing these portraits. Guess what he did? One day he just got sick of it. And he left one portrait halfway through and left. Can I come to the next slide? So this is a bit about the difference in Western style and Bharatiya style. Bharatiya, I'm including urban, tribal, folk, everything. What is the most important is the bhav, the dharma, the ras, and the deep reverence to natural and life cycles. Theirs was heavily onto copying nature. I'm not saying that that is wrong. There are brilliant Western painters, but that is not what we wanted. So we just didn't want to, and we don't copy nature. The other thing is we did not bother so much about the proportion as the story our paintings were telling. So I'm just showing this a bit to you so you can understand the premise. The next one. Thinking of art as a tool for social change. So he just got so bored of doing all that, and he went back home. And at home, he saw the Santhal tribe, which was very close to where he lived. He saw the beautiful statues and the carvings, and he said, "This is what I want to do." And he came back to India, back to Calcutta, where he was staying, where he ran away from, and he went to the area where the Kalighat, in the Kalighat area where the Santhal people lived. And that's one of the reasons his paintings are even called Kalighat and Santhal. The next slide. So, he kind of wanted to overcome the stalemate because there were other painters, which if I talk about later on, or I will tell you now, is that they wanted to go back to Indian style, so they started copying the Ajanta style. They started doing the safely Mughal paintings, but he didn't want to do that. So before I continue, I have a little poem. Can you imagine there's a poem written on him? And I'd love to share it with you. Refusing their hostility, his all-asserting art survived. He started with a different style. He traveled. So he found his roots. His rage became a quiet smile, prolific in its proper fruits. A people painted what it saw with eyes of simple innocence. An urban artist found the law to make its spirit sing and dance. Actually this sums up it all. But still, I want to show you more of him because I just can't. Doing this PPT was so difficult. ये painting रखूं, वो painting रखूं, ये बात बताऊं, वो बात बताऊं. So this guy who was totally into Western painting left it, went out, went back to his roots, and started doing tribal art. The next slide. So what did he do? He copied paintings from what he saw at home. And this is one of the most beautiful examples I found. And this is a very famous painting of his. There's another one which is the black horse, but I didn't want to, overload y'all. So I've just kept one, a simple one for y'all to see. The next one. What made his work different? So I told you there was Hussain, there was Mehta, there was Shergill, there were all these people. Guess what he did different? He said that if I'm going to do Indian themes, Indian stories, I cannot do it using Western material. So he gave up Western material and he started using indigo for blue. He started using the clay of the Ganga and he started painting with plain cloth, torn saris. He would, starch them with the clay and put them up on wooden frames. Another thing which he did is he sat on the floor. He gave up his easel. You may think that, oh, she's being so dramatic about it. Think about this. Think about it from the artist's point of view. Think about it from the light point of view. Today, if we had darkened this hall, imagine what my paintings would have looked like, my slides. So you see the light coming from different directions change the look. And he says, no, if I have to do Indian work, I have to go back to my roots. He was one of the only, like we have Hussain, who has incredible paintings and he's so well known, but he still used Western material. So did Mehta. Amrita Shergill for years went on using it till sometime she stopped and then started using Indian motifs. I'm not criticizing them, but I'm just talking about this lovely painter, Jamini Roy, who really went back and this is it. This is the studies which is so important, is that not only did he, draw tribal thing, he went back to them. He used that motif and he brought that right up to the forefront. There was another thing which I told you, if I remember, I will tell you, and I did. What he did is he started making hundreds and hundreds of paintings. So it got the cost of his paintings down. And that made his paintings available for everybody. It wasn't, oh, he's got a Hussein, he must be ultra rich. Well, no, I have a Jamini Roy and I am a normal person, That was the beauty and that's what he got back. Next. This is it. He says, if I find I cannot take the path of Europe, China or Tibet, I cannot follow Persian or Mughal paintings because I do not live in those circumstances. He had to try to find himself. So this paper and Jamini Roy is about lots of things. It's about Jamini Roy finding himself, me finding myself, me talking about colonial times. Yeah, the next slide. So I've already told you this, that he left the Western artistic vocabulary, and his art is a testament of the indigenous Indian knowledge system. That it is something that has thrived for years and years and years, and imagine it's just been hidden or neglected or run down, and suddenly they have this great painter who becomes one of India's greatest painters of that colonial time, and he brought all his art was just tribal. Yeah, the next one. So I want to show you some. He drew from everyday life. The cat and the fish that he saw in the village. And this dual cat with the one crayfish is a very modern painting done in the Santhal and Kalighat style. This cat, his cats are very famous. So this is the cat with the lobster. The next one. The untitled, you see, it's flat. Outlined. When I was in art school, I used to hate outlining the painting. I never thought that one day I would see a painter who would make me change my mind. And see the blank outline. And it just makes the painting look so beautiful. The next one. Boating. The next one. These are all things he saw in everyday life. The next one. The blacksmith. Next. The three pujaris. And there's another blue paint woman like this, and they are his most famous paintings. So you can see the style that he's adopted and adapted to and become so good at it. The next one. So how does this fit into the larger discourse? Self-reliance, rejecting foreign influence, deeply rooted in indigenous modernism. This is indigenous modernism, which he still rooted in India, still in Santhal, still in Kalighat, but it's the modern style which he's created. Through this rebellious path, Jamini Roy has become more than a painter. He emerged as a cultural revolutionary whose influence continues to shape Indian art. And you feel this is an interesting indigenous Indian knowledge system study done in colonial times. Why? Because of the Western influence which he fought against, made everything his own, and created a style for himself. It wasn't as if he wasn't good at the other one. He was excellent at it. But he had to go back to his roots. He had to go back to where his heart beats. And that is the beauty of it. If we go back to our Indian system where our heart beats and do what is really true to us, it would make such a difference. The next slide. These are the two paintings done by my students in the 5th grade. Just see how relevant he is for them too. 5th standard children in Gujarat doing a painter from Calcutta. I think that's it. Thank you very much.
Dhanyavad Swaroop ji for introducing us to the world of Jamini Roy. So I must take a moment and share that Abanindranath Tagore had once mentioned, he was the first to break.
Yes.
and recognize that
He
the
was
modern
his
art,
teacher.
his teacher, and recognize that the modern art is going in a different direction, and he made some very specific critical comments which will not get into it right now. But I think this dimension of Indian knowledge systems, that is, regaining confidence
Right.
in our own ways of painting, including the material, I think that has not gotten the due attention.
There's another point there. Is I am very much for getting us younger students into IKS, not only the older ones. Now, what are the two ways to get them in? According to me, or three would be the Ithya stories, of course. But that painting and the stotras, these are ways to get our children interested into Indian knowledge system, even if they're so young.
Thank you. We have scope for a couple of questions, if you have any.
Those who are attending this conference, please go back to your own places and tell all the people interested in IKS that art and drawing and painting is IKS. First of all, that's what is missing. Art, is it IKS? Dance, is it IKS? Music, is it IKS? Or is there something about music that is IKS, or is there something about dance that is IKS? Swaroop ji was showing that art itself is IKS. It is, Harikiran Garu classifies knowledge systems into three categories: textual, embodied and experiential. These are all embodied knowledge systems. Art itself is a knowledge system, and she was showing how through the knowledge system of art there was a revolt being done by an artist to the colonial oppression. Thank you very much for bringing out this aspect, Swaroop ji.